Hello and welcome to another edition of Inside Just Print It. I'm your host, Carter Vail, and recently the newspaper hasn't actually been going too well. The students have lost interest and the participation has gone down. So I'm here to talk with Kaya Gianelli, my editor-in-chief. Hi, Kaya.
Hi, Carter.
So what do you think about the participation?
I think it's horrible, frankly. But I think that if, we put enough effort into it, we can work on it, and it'll become the newspaper it was 2 years ago and the year before that.
About how much percent of the students do you think are participating currently?
I would say anywhere between 5 and 15%. I'm not good with that stuff, but I'd say about that much.
Now, you wanted to see probably 100%, correct?
Correct.
So why do you think the students have lost so much interest in the paper?
I think they're getting sick of it in a way, where I think it's just getting old for them. What I think we need to do is come up with a unique idea and maybe spice it up a little bit and do something new with it so it'll get kids back into it.
Now, even though the participation and kids have lost interest, have you seen any good stories in the December edition?
Yeah, I did. I saw a lot of good stories. One was by Craig Luray and Caleb Vickery. They both did a good one on the student elections, and those were pretty good stories.
How do you think the editors have been doing lately?
I think they've been doing great. A couple of them haven't really been doing that well, but we're dealing with that.
Now, can you tell me a bit about the new JPI rules about work sessions and editors?
Well, we have every B day now. We have from, I think it's 1:30 to 2:45. We have a JPI work session if you're not in course, and where everybody gets to come and work on their stories and do JPI-related things. And there have been kids now submitting stories that are, a sentence long or a couple sentences long, and we can't have that. So what we've made up the rules are if you don't submit a story, and if you're coming to the work session and you don't submit a story, and you're sort of using that work session as just a way to get out of class, then you're going to be kicked from the work session. You have to make up a story on your own time. Not in school, you don't have a special time to do it. And also we have a rule where we have to have more than a paragraph long stories, so we have to have good stories that are a good length.
Now, how have your editors been doing, and have they written their stories, and have they been up to speed?
Most of them have been doing great as editors, and most of them have been writing stories. Some of them have, they can't write stories for different reasons, but the ones who can write stories, a lot of them are doing very well with that.
Right. Now, not only being the editor-in-chief, you're also the layout editor. Have you changed how you changed the layout, or no?
I haven't really changed the layout, how I do it from the beginning of the year, but I've sort of learned how to do it, better than I did at the beginning of the year, so now I know how to place things and how to,
Now with less stories being written, would you say it's easier to lay the paper out or harder because you want to make it longer?
It's harder because you want to make it longer, and you got to figure out what would catch somebody's eye, and not just put all the stories on one page and make it, a page-long newspaper.
Now, most people say it's not quantity, it's quality. So do you say the paper still has good quality even though it's not too long?
Most of the stories are pretty good quality. Some of the stories need work that we've been getting, but yeah, I would say quality over quantity. But it's still, quantity is still important sometimes. So we do have good quality. I think we just need to work on the quantity.
Now, Just Print It recently hit its 125th edition, and it seemed like it was going very well up until there, even though last year it dropped away. But is there any reason except for the participation, really, or is it just that?
Just the effort people have been putting into it. A lot of people haven't been putting much effort into it, and I think that needs to be worked on.
All right. Thank you, Kaya.
Thank you, Carter.
and I'll be right back with our next guest, Aiden Drofsick and Annika Fisher. I'm back with Annika Fisher and Aiden Drofsick, the news editors. Hello, Annika.
Hi, Carter.
Aiden. So, in news lately, what's been happening?
Well, as you may know, there is a slump in the Just Print It stories, and I've only received about 5 stories, like maybe throughout the whole year, so it's pretty bad.
Aiden, about how many have you received?
I think I've edited about 7.
Now, have you guys been seeing good stories or not so great?
Well, some of them are, unfortunately, are only like 3 sentences long, and we do try to tell the students that they need at least a paragraph, and that's pretty much it. So,
I say we're kind of in the middle because a lot of the stories are good, but some of them are bad.
So what about the participation lately? Like Kaya said, there's only about 5 or 15% of the students participating.
well, I wouldn't agree with the 5, I would have to say, because I know for a fact that a lot of students do with partners, so they write together, and I guess you could count that as a story with 2 people, so, I mean, I'd say about maybe 20.
And Aiden?
I say it would be like around 17, 16.
All right. And what about the new guidelines for stories? Do you like them or do you think they're not so good?
I like them. I think it just, unfortunately the slump has created that to happen, and I think they pretty much work as long as you follow them and you actually are willing to try.
Nathan?
The guidelines were a good idea because the stories they came in, they were like a sentence long, and stories that were less than a paragraph. They had no interviews. And
Now, do you agree that students who participate in Just Print It and get a story in every edition should be allowed to come to the JPI work sessions and have time in school?
Yeah, it's just rewarding the good behavior and the help and participation.
So what about all the other editors? Have you seen good stories that were well edited and that you can tell that have been edited correctly?
I've seen, those kind of stories. Sometimes I only find like 1 or 2 mistakes, and that's pretty good.
well, the stories that I've been editing, they haven't had a lot of mistakes. They've had somewhere in the middle, like spelling errors and punctuation.
Now, have you changed how you've been editing over the year or no?
Not really. We sticking to the most basics, which means we take a paper and we share. So if like Aiden, I get to see what Aiden does, and then I try to correct, and maybe we find some mistakes that we both made.
Now, are you both keeping up to speed with writing stories for every edition?
Yes, I am actually writing a story with Mary. It's the Bake CD dinner, and since we are both in it, we have we know the experiences and what happened.
And Aiden?
No, I haven't been really keeping up on the stories.
All right. So, have you seen very good stories just in the newspaper in general?
Yes, actually in sports and fiction, and there's some really good stories. And unfortunately in news, we need more stories, you know?
Aiden?
There's been good stories, a lot of good stories over the year so far.
Now, do you agree with the quality, not quantity idea?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, quality's great, but we need quantity too, because that doesn't make a newspaper if you only have 5 pages.
I'd rather have like medium, like I'd rather have a lot of stories like medium quality instead of having no stories with good quality or a lot of stories with bad quality.
All right. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aiden. And I'll be right back with the fiction editor, Caleb Vickery. I'm back with Caleb Vickery, the entertainment editor. How you doing, Caleb?
Hi, Carter. I'm doing well.
So, how has the participation been for the paper?
There's been a big drop in participation. We haven't seen a lot of stories in the entertainment department. I'm asking students to add more details to their stories, and write a little bit longer stories, and have at least 3 interviews.
Now, besides just being an editor, you also make the announcements for Just Print It. How did you get selected for that job?
I signed up for entertainment editor, and when we had our first meeting, Mr. DeFino told me that I would be announcements editor.
Do you also have to make up your own announcements, or do you have them written for you?
I usually make up my own, but if somebody needs an announcement, I can announce it on announcements.
Now, for the paper, would you rather have great quality or more stories?
I would like an even mix there, because we need longer papers and we need a little bit better quality for some stories. So.
Now, the stories have you been editing? Have you seen some of the better quality ones or some of the worst quality ones?
I've seen some good quality stories. I actually got one that was almost a full page long without pictures, so it was pretty good. And some people need to do a little bit better.
Now, how do you feel about the JPI work session and the rules and guidelines?
I like the guidelines and the rules. I think the work session is good because sometimes if you have homework and you may not be able to get it done at home, so there's a designated time that you can work on them in school.
All right, and the rules are how many exactly paragraphs long does a story need to be?
We didn't really set paragraphs. I think it was at least 2, but they would like 3 possibly, and 3 interviews.
Now, do you have any favorite stories from the last edition?
I liked the Mindcraft, part 2, I think, by Mark Danza, our columnist, and I think that was very well written.
Now, why do you think the participation has dropped so much from the students?
I think that students are just not really participating anymore. They don't really like it in a way, so they're kind of forgetting that we have to work on our paper and keep this going.
All right, thank you, Caleb.
Thank you, Carter.
And I'll be right back with the sports editor, Ty Gallagher. Hello, and I'm back with Ty Gallagher. Hi, Ty.
Hi, Carter.
So, how's the participation been going in your eyes?
Well, there's been some changes this past month for my group especially. We had 3 sports editors, Jaden and Quentin and I, and apparently to the new rules, if you don't write a story, as an editor, you are not an editor anymore.
What about from the students and the paper in total?
Well, I think that the paper's gone pretty good so far. I mean, the first few editions were good, but it's starting to die down now since everyone's losing their participation and the interest level's down here and when it was up here coming into this year. So I don't know where the newspaper's going at this point.
Now, what's your take on why the interest level dropped so suddenly?
I think it's just that the students don't get enough time. We all have lives. Every student in this school has a life. I know they do. And, I mean, if you're going to write a story, write something on your interest, at least. That's what I do. My interest is sports. I like to write stories on sports. On occasions, I write stories on other things. but that's why I think the interest level is going down.
So, have you been up to speed? Have you been writing your stories and getting them in when you should be?
Yes, this month I actually I just really went into on the internet, Google, and just found a story on bullying, and I typed it up. I just wrote it on my computer, and I got it in. So my story is about bullying this month, this edition.
That's good. So, what's your take on some stories you've seen when you're editing?
I've only seen one this whole time, and it was Randy Dodig's outdoor Coolers Light Outdoor Stadium series for the NHL. It was a really good story. It was a 2-page story. A lot of facts, a lot of information on the NHL and how they're making the outdoor games a big success.
Now, how do you put your own touch on stories that you edit? Do you give them info to put in? Do you just tell them what they need, or?
Well, Randy had one mistake, and he had one punctuation mistake, and then there was another mistake that was I questioned him. I don't know if he changed it, if he looked it up, but I questioned if a team played or not, and so that was. I really like to give him more information to make the story better, because the story is never good enough. You always have to add on to the story to make it better.
Now, on your sports side, do you think you just haven't seen a lot of stories because Clinton and Jaden were taking them, or do you think it's more that just not enough people are writing sports stories?
Well, I think it's the fact that outside my classroom is my folder, and Jaden and Clinton were coming to me complaining that they weren't getting any stories. I said, I don't get stories either. I mean, they're asking for 3-4 stories an edition. I only get one story the whole time. I think it's just that the sports interest now is just going down because everyone wants to write about the school to get on that front page, and that's the thing. And I can't. The other, like the entertainment and the fiction, and the sports especially, we can't fill up our section with nonsense stories.
Yeah. Have you seen any really short stories just in the paper in general that you think shouldn't have been in there?
Yes. I don't want to point out any specific stories, but I've seen a lot of stories that are a sentence. Some of them are a sentence, some of them are a paragraph, some are 3 sentences. It depends, but it's crazy.
So are you glad that the new guidelines are set that only certain stories will be accepted?
I'm very happy. I mean, at the end, when everyone's coming down, there are only going to be a few people left writing these stories. But if I know that I want to work and I want to be able to write a story and get it into the paper and have fun with it, then I'm fine, and that's all I want to do.
Now, do you think if an editor doesn't write a story, they should lose their job as an editor because they didn't follow the guidelines?
Absolutely. I mean, Mr. DeFino and the Just Print It crew really put some thought into it, and we all came with our guidelines and our ideas, and we came up with the guidelines of Just Print It, and that was that. And now it's over and done with. The rules are rules, and hopefully that no editors will ever not write a story. So,
All right. Thank you, Ty.
thank you, Carter.
And thank you for watching another edition of Inside Just Print It. Don't forget to Google us, watch us, like us, and share us.